Hi, SUSE. Hope you're doing all right. My name is Marcus Figueiredo. I am with Fujitsu. I'm the director for our Center of Excellence for Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres. And today, we're going to be talking a little bit about modernization. There's a lot out there in terms of modernization, but the angle that we're going to be talking today is from a technology perspective, how you can combine Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres with SUSE Rancher, which I hope you are familiar with, to achieve all the aspects you need when you embark into a transformation journey, right? There's a lot that goes into transformation. Of course, I would not be able to impact everything, but usually when we talk about transformation, we're talking about how we can actually support the business to embrace digital transformations, how they can optimize cost, accelerate adoption of portable applications, and of course, all the traditional tenets and qualities that we expect from a legacy application, they need to be ported, or they need to also be part of our new models or our new ways to deploy applications. Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres it's a relational database, and I will be talking a little bit about the differences. What is Postgres for those who are not so familiar with it? And from now on, I will be referring also to Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres as a FEP for short, just to simplify and save a little bit of a time. But a few things that we're going to explore today is how key functionalities and features that we have built into our product actually help you to achieve things like scalability needed to deliver enterprise applications. How you can actually make your database more portable and be able to play into the multi-cloud environments. How you can do all of that without having to worry too much about security and actually leveraging state-of-the-art implementations of security that are actually built in from the ground up into the database, while not forgetting uh, key things like resiliency and high availability, how you actually can leverage some of these technologies without compromising in terms of resiliency, high availability. And finally, uh, as important as the other topics, how you can actually leverage some existing systems or environments that you might have. So you might have a cloud vendor of preference, or you might have a hardware architecture of preference. And I'll show you that it's all part of how you modernize, right? You just don't throw everything out of the window and then restart from zero. It's all about how you actually maximize investment and how you prepare for the next move. So with that, before we jump into the details and more into the modernization story, I want to highlight how awesome is actually this partnership between SUSE and Fujitsu. So we have an alliance between the two organizations, an alliance that is standing for more than 2 decades. So as you can see on this chart, we're talking about almost 25 years of us, both organizations supporting each other to deliver value to clients. And we're not just talking about uh, SUSE operational system, but we're talking about the full stack, right? So you can see some of the Fujitsu hardware combined with services. So all those aspects actually are part of this alliance, and that makes uh, this combination greater for our clients. Of course, one of the key points of this conversation today is a key part of technology that SUSE has, which is Rancher, which is really focused on Kubernetes and how companies can containerize applications, how they can actually start playing in a multi-cloud environment in a more comprehensive way. So knowing all of those capabilities from a Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres FEP, we actually have announced early on this year something called FEP for Kubernetes. So it's an enhanced version of our FEP, and that version actually provides something called an operator, which I will explain a little bit later on, what this operator actually is and what it does for clients. But in simple terms, the operator allows you to actually have this database using all the enterprise functionalities that you have in the database in combination with a Kubernetes cluster, right? In this case, we're going to be talking about Rancher, so I'm going to highlight some of the key unique things with Rancher. And as part of the announcement that we did early on the year, and if you go to our website, you see we actually have tested and validated all the functionality of our product, FEP 14 for Kubernetes. We have validated all of that with Rancher, SUSE Rancher, and we support currently x86 architecture. And we are looking into how we can actually spin that into further architectures. So Linux One has been one of the key architectures for us. So S390X architecture, for those who are familiar with that product, it's one of our main supported platforms. So IBM Z. And as SUSE expanding to different architectures, we also of course, we're going to be listening to our clients and expanding into those architectures. So we're currently planning to have IBM Linux One supported into the Kubernetes version with Rancher. So when we start talking about modernization, transformation, of course, the first thing that comes to mind is cloud and containers, right? And containers, they have been growing not only in adoption, but also in functionality to the point where now Kubernetes, which is one of the main ways to actually work with containers, have increased to a point that we can call it has become mainstream, right? So as we can look at some of the data points that I have here on this chart, we're talking about a 5.6 million developers using Kubernetes worldwide today. So that's a massive number. And not only that, as we see what kind of a tooling the cloud managed services are using under the hood, like as you can see in the second bullet point here, about 90% of those are using some sort of a Kubernetes to actually help them to manage and to scale those services and to provide value to the clients. And of course, that drags a whole lot more behind the scenes. And one other example here is Prometheus, for example. In the last 6 months, they've seen an increase in overall adoption of a 43%. On the last 6 months of 2022, the adoption had increased this staggering number, right? So which just shows, so Prometheus, for those who are not familiar, is just a tool for monitoring, and a lot of that growth, it's being driven because of the increased adoption of containers and Kubernetes in itself. And since we're talking about data, databases and data solutions, right? There are few market trends that we cannot just ignore, right? The first one, it's really this ever increased need for being compliant, right? A lot of governments, a lot of institutions are now under a lot of pressure to be always compliant and to protect data from the users, protect internal data, because data it's central for almost everything that organizations do. So one key piece of technology that is pervasive usually to allow companies to protect data is encryption, right? The funny thing is encryption is not default for most of the open source databases. And you see that's actually one of the key things in our product, which is really the capacity of encrypting data without having to make developers to redesign the applications. The second big trend that you can see here on the second bullet here, it's really the rise of open source databases. The two lines, the orange one represent commercial databases, and the red one represents the open source databases. So for the first time, you can see here in quite a few years, for the first time, the open source databases have actually surpassed the commercial databases in popularity. And with that, there's this increased need of, as companies start embracing open source databases, there's increased this need to bring enterprise functionality to these open source databases. So Postgres, which is of course in the name of the product that I announced early on, in the product that I'm responsible at Fujitsu, uh, Postgres adoption it's growing significantly, right? So that the graphic you saw on the previous chart, it talks about all the open source databases that are available in the market. But if you narrow down the few ones, you see Postgres has a very big adoption, uh, and there are a few reasons for that. Of course, the first one is the high compatibility with existing legacy types of databases, which are what we call in here in this picture the monolithic ones. So traditionally, enterprises have invested a lot of money on building applications and databases in a monolithic and tier type of deployment. Those applications are usually the critical applications for the business, and they have existed for a long time. But now, as the business uh, get pressure to modernize and to be more agile. So organizations are looking how can they actually be more flexible, how they can adapt some of those monolithic systems into something that are more multi-cloud oriented. So the compatibility with the legacy basically translate into a cost equation. So of course, commercial systems are very expensive. Open source tends to be a lot more cost effective than those solutions. So companies are looking into cost-effective ways to leverage the data that they have before. Another key point is Postgres is highly portable. So as you start thinking about cloud, you see most of the cloud vendors they have some flavor of a Postgres, and there's also a lot of flavors of Postgres for on-prem and private cloud deployments. And that ability actually allow clients to be multi-cloud. So as they containerize things, as they start moving to a more containerized approach, they have the ability to not only move the application but also move the data and the database in itself to a more portable solution. The one fact that most people are not paying attention right now is how can I adopt that? How can I go fast without compromising key tenants like security, resiliency, and automation, right? Sometimes we go to a database as a service model into the cloud, but we forget some of those or tend to be open just in the name, but they don't give you the portability. So if you want to move away or move to a different implementation, you might be actually in a lock-in situation that you were before in the monolithic ones. So there are two main balances here. One is the cost, and the other one is really the agility and the portability that you get when you start adopting something like Postgres. So those are the two main drivers that we see. We could highlight a few others, but we think those are the two main things pulling the adoption of Postgres. And as we got a little bit more narrow and then we start talking about our flavor of it, Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres, it's not a new product. Probably you haven't heard about it before, but this product actually has been commercialized in the Japan market for a while. We are one of the main contributors actually for the Postgres community, and we're doing that for more than a decade. So we're not a new contributor. We actually have one of the uh, most active contributions back to the Postgres community, and in our version itself, what we do is we take the open source community and we enhance it with a few extra capabilities. So those four pillars that you see in there, they're kind of like the differentiation that we have in our solution. But we built it in a way that we wanted all the clients to take advantage of those functionalities without having to worry about being locked into our solution. So you see some other implementations out there, they are also talking about security, also talking about performance. But once you start using some of the features, there is no easy way for you to migrate away from those solutions. So I'll just talk briefly and highlight some of those key things. So around security, I talked about early on. So our solution is from the ground up built with this additional security capability. So we have functionality that you only see in commercial databases. For example, transparent data encryption, data masking, which are capabilities that allow you to encrypt your data without having to do any changes on the application side. And guess what? If you don't want to use this and move back to community, you can do that very easily. So you can move back without having to change lines of codes or doing an expensive migration. So in terms of performance, performance is key. Everyone using a database always worry about performance. Postgres in itself tends to be very performant when compared to the big relational databases that you might find out there. That's also one of the reasons why people like to migrate some of the legacy applications to Postgres, because you get that performance. Uh, but there are also extra functionality that we provide to our clients. For example, for clients that are doing some mixed workloads against the database, they can use some of our features to speed up some of those. We also clients that will need to do high data load transfers or quick backups. We have built different things into our implementation that allow clients to accelerate some of those day-to-day tasks. All right. Again, without having any hooks on making you dependent on the solution in itself. Then resiliency. Every enterprise solution should have a minimal level of resiliency, right? So we actually here talking about a 5 nines type of implementation. So things like disaster recovery, mirroring of controllers, load balancing, all those functionalities that you would expect from an enterprise database, you have all of those available in our implementation. And finally, one key thing, which is the main thing actually for this presentation, is the automation piece. We have put a lot of effort in terms of automation, and that goes into mostly our Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres for Kubernetes. And you see a lot of that actually playing into our operator and how we actually integrate with a Rancher, for example. Just a little bit. I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining what's Rancher. I'm pretty sure that there is a couple of presentations that can go in deep in terms of what Rancher does or what the benefits are. I'm going to look at it from a lens of a database point of view. So when you think about why Rancher, why a DBA would use Rancher, right? So the first thing is Rancher is a multi-cluster Kubernetes management solution, right? So you basically can leverage any Kubernetes management that is certified distribution out there and use Rancher to manage all of those. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and really gives you a true multi-cloud capability to have different Kubernetes clustering running on different providers or different architectures, and actually using Rancher to be that point of control for you. So you can centralize all those things. From a DBA perspective and a developer perspective, really what you're doing is you're simplifying the activities and daily tasks of the developer and the DBA. So the DBA here has a lot of the low value tasks automated, so he doesn't need to be doing basic tasks, and the developer also can abstract most of the things and not become a DBA, so that he can leverage all these capabilities without having to learn too much about the database in itself. So a very high adoption. Downloads probably way beyond the 182 millions right now, and it's a key platform from a Fujitsu point of view. In terms of clients who are really looking into modernizing and trying to leverage a multi-cloud environment. So a quick functional summary. Again, the idea is not really to explain what a Rancher can do, but one way you can see all of this in play, and I'm just summarizing here so you can actually go back. So we're going to actually upload one demo for those interested in seeing how it's FEP running on Rancher, so you can see all the tooling, the UI to do the deployment, how easy it is actually to just click and have a database instance spin up and running, and how actually intuitive it is once you have the environment up and running, how intuitive it is to manage your FEP into that kind of environment. So I talked about this a little bit, right? So operator. So the operator is the key thing in our for Kubernetes version. And operators are basically a way to automate the life cycle of a software, right? For us, it's really the way to automate the life cycle of your database. So when you're talking about a Rancher environment, we have a few things that are quite unique in our deployment. So you can see FEP cluster, which is basically our packaging to manage an FEP cluster in itself. We have a PG pool. We do have toolings around backup and restore. And around all of those, we also provide YAML files or files that help you to have a custom control of your resources. So all of those things that you use in a daily basis for a Rancher environment, you have those available here in our operator. So few of the key features. So everything that you saw when I talk about our 4 pillars, all of those features are also available here for the Kubernetes version. So if you're thinking about, well, those are all cool features. Can I leverage table data encryption for my containerized database version? Yes, you can. Can I leverage some of the HA capabilities? Yes, you can. It's all available. Can I leverage some of the actually mixed workload type of accelerations that you have built in? Yes, you can do all of those. And in addition to that, you can have FEP running on any one of those Kubernetes flavors like AKS, EKS, RKE, E2, and actually use Rancher to control all of those environments and have a single point of visibility for everything. Also, the little circles at the bottom just highlight the true nature of the multi-cloud implementation of our solution and the Rancher solution itself. So for clients that want to really just leverage bare metal physical servers, they can do all of this in a physical server. If they want to have a mix between virtual machines and physical, they can do that. And if they want to have a mix of clouds, virtual, physical, they can all mix and match all of those things because they have the portability here. On the physical, like I said early on, we even go in further and providing multi-options for clients to deploy our solutions in different architectures. So we do support 3 main types of architectures right now for the FEP standalone, which are x86, S390, and Power architecture. And like I indicated, so we now support for SUSE Rancher, the Intel version. We are working on supporting the S390 version. And in the future, if there is a version for Rancher for Power, we will definitely be looking into doing work in that area. So you can see on the operator, those little boxes are just basically all the things that we have implemented in our operator to give clients the extra ability to automate. So there's a lot in terms of auto scaling, monitoring, insights to detect like the health of the database itself, all provided to the clients that are using a Kubernetes environment, all provided through the operator. So it is really a robust implementation that allows you to leverage all the capabilities that are native and built in on SUSE Rancher. And to summarize all of those, Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres and our version for Kubernetes, which is just an enhancement or an improvement of our Enterprise Postgres, they provide you ways to start very small and grow depending on your deployment. It reduces a lot the operational load because there's a lot of automation. So the operator is all about automation. The vendor lock-in, it's a big thing. A lot of folks are adopting Postgres community and then moving to an enterprise flavor of it, or even using the community implementation in some cloud vendors, but they don't realize some of those implementations have very specific things that actually end up creating some sorts of a lock-in, right? So there's no easy way to move away without doing a migration. Our version is fully compatible with a community. So once the client decides they don't want to use our solution anymore for whatever reason, they can always go back to a community version and still reuse all the data, right? So there's no string attaches here. Security and reliability, paramount to everything that we're doing. So we focus a lot. And you see also a lot of the other vendors out there talking about security, right? But it's not really to the level that the enterprises are looking to implement. It's usually just some sort of authentication or just a few additional audit logs, but not really to the level of really allowing it to encrypt or to have a data masking solution. And of course, the quality and the compatibility that we have built into the product, not only with the Kubernetes implementation itself, but all the managed versions that can actually leverage Kubernetes implementations, for example, Rancher. So this was a quick presentation. I actually provide a lot of information, but I'm pretty sure you might have a lot of other questions. So once you download this presentation, you can actually click in some of those links and read a little bit more from SUSE in itself, about our partnership with SUSE and actually IBM as well as check a little bit of our data sheets and manuals, guides for the Kubernetes implementation. And you can always go to our website to get more information, or reach out to me directly through email if you have questions or if you want to see a demo. Like I mentioned before, we're going to be uploading a demo of how to deploy and use Fujitsu Enterprise Postgres on Rancher. And I hope you actually take a look at that and see how flexible, how portable the solution is, and how much automation is built into that implementation. So I appreciate you spending this last 26 minutes with me. And I hope to be able to talk with you soon and explain a little bit more the details of this implementation and discuss about your data and your transformation journey moving forward. So take care, enjoy the conference, and hope to be able to talk with you soon.